don't know how to start this. You typically don't do like a hello, what's up sort of thing. So we bought the cheapest Infiniti a few months ago in the country. This one right here for $900. Yes, you heard me right, $900, and really it was a little under $900, about $875, but we'll just go with $900 for ease of math. And really the $25, we'll consider that the stress it was while waiting for the title, because really what we did was pay off the previous owner's loan, and we had no idea if the title would ever arrive, but we had the car, and well, it did finally arrive about 2 or 3 weeks later, and so now we do own the cheapest Infiniti in the country at the time, $900. Currently, the cheapest one in the country that we've been able to find, $1,700, and it has 16,000 more miles than this. So it kind of just shows you what kind of a deal we did get on this car. But with that, we like to talk about how much it actually costs to own cars. What is it to live with these cars? The cheapest Infiniti in the country, for example. What's the cost to actually keep the cheapest car in the country running? If you go to the dealership, it's going to cost you a lot more than the stuff we're using on this car, because we're not using any dealer parts on this thing. Aftermarket all the way, and we're going to go ahead and get into that. First and foremost though, when we bought the car, it wasn't in the best spec. It ran, the engine worked, you could get it down the road, but it made this horrible grinding noise from the back left wheel. That was because it was metal on metal. The rotor was directly onto the brake, and it was bad. And so whenever you would drive down the road, it would sound like you were trying to grind some wheat in your local mill. Overall though, that was kind of the first thing we needed to take care of. So we went ahead and put new brakes and rotors on the rear of the car. This came out at about $200. We did it ourselves. We failed. It was bad, but $200 is what it ended up costing us. And now the rear brakes and rotors are fine. After that, we got the oil sorted, and after buying some tools and things like that and doing an oil change for the first time ourselves, we ended up at about $60 to get the oil changed on this car. And overall, wish I had just taken it to someone like, you know, Jivvy Lube. I mean, really and truly, who cares? It would have been about the same price, but we got the experience of changing the oil on this car. Moving forward, we'll just take it to a little crappy oil change place, and they'll do it for us. But nevertheless, now we're looking at about $260 to get this car running. And at this point, the car was running, but the tires were pretty bad, right? So we had bald tires on the front. One of them had a nail in it. It was bad, but it could get down the road. Somehow they were holding air. I don't understand how. But we didn't want to do that, especially with it going into winter. So we went ahead and put some cheapo tires, $400. And it actually came in at about $350 because of a mail-in rebate. So if you add in the $260 for the oil change and the rotors, plus the $350 for the tires, we come in at $610 to get the cheapest Infiniti in the country on the road. And on the road it went. We have driven this thing over 5,000 miles in the past few months. Oh, about 1,000 miles a month, just over. But overall, not too bad, considering this thing cost us $900. Now, there is one more issue that the Infiniti did have, and well, that day, smoke came out of the engine. You see, I was driving the Infiniti. Patrick and I had just went to lunch. 20 corn dogs, yeah.
2 corn dogs?
20.
20?
Yeah, 20.
2, 0?
Yes. We were coming up the road towards his house, and the next thing you know, I see the heat go from where it normally is, about halfway, to almost all the way up in an instant. And, well, by the time we got it back to his house, which was less than a mile, probably a quarter of a mile, that heat gauge was almost all the way up. It wasn't quite all the way up. I want to stress this. I did not overheat the engine on the Infiniti, because if we had, we wouldn't have this car anymore. But we get it there, there's coolant pouring out of everywhere. There's just tons of it running out from under the car. It was bad. Sorry about the stain in your driveway, Patrick. But we ended up getting it stopped, letting it cool down, and then we're able to limit to a mechanic and get it towed to a mechanic actually, and then take it to another mechanic to find out that the entire bottom of the radiator had a crack across it, and it was just spewing out coolant. So much so it drained all of the coolant out of the car in a split second and almost overheated it. Luckily though, it didn't overheat, and aftermarket parts for an Infiniti are pretty cheap. Now, many of you would probably assume that I got wrecked here, and that I spent way too much money on getting this Infiniti, and that I should have bought a lift myself and put it up and done all of that. But here's the thing, I don't have any interest in working on my cars these days. It's just not worth our time. I understand if you want to work on your cars, it's not a skill that I have. So I took it to a local mechanic here, and for $420, tax and all, we were able to toke up and get our Infiniti back on the road. That was funny, laugh. So after everything, we're at $1,030 worth of maintenance on our Infiniti G35X. Not too bad considering we bought the car for $900. This brings us in at $1,930 to own the cheapest car in the country, including the purchase price for, well, how long? About 6 months. overall, should you buy the cheapest car in the country? Is it going to be worth it? Most likely not. I think we've gotten pretty lucky here with this car, and for all we know, we're going to start it right now and the entire engine's going to fall out. But at any point, that could happen, and that's part of the risk, and that's part of the fun. This car has been great. We've beat it up. We've taken it to Atlanta. We've done everything in this car because we can, and because it really doesn't matter. That's why you buy the cheapest car in the country, in my opinion. Because you can do stuff to it, and really there are no consequences. It doesn't matter. It's just fun. And coming from a BMW 428i to this, it's not the kind of fun that you expect in the 428i, which is sportiness and fun like that. This car is just fun because you don't care. So, really, I guess I should pose the question off to you. Do you think it's a good idea to buy the cheapest car in the country? I really don't think it is, but let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. Patrick normally doesn't ask you to like and subscribe, but I have no shame. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more awesome content, and we are out. Peace.